Hello folks, I'm John Myrie and welcome to the Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. Well, with fall fishing and hunting just getting underway now, on this week's show we have reports and tips for you from Jarrett McCarthy down at Hayward Bait and Bottle. And then I had a chance to talk with fishing guide Chris Beeksma up on the Chequamegon Bay of Lake Superior, and that's a great fishery that's just not that far away for us here. Lots to cover on this week's show, all coming up right after these messages.
You want to get outdoors, you want to have some fun.
There are still plenty of epic fishing adventures to have this year, but they rely on having the right boat. That's where Hayward Power Sports comes in. We have an awesome selection of new Lund boats built by fishermen for fishermen for the last 75 years, and no boat retains their value better. Or check out a Tracker, America's #1 selling fishing boat. Both brands are powered by Mercury outboards, rigged and ready. Don't miss another day of fishing. See us at Hayward Power Sports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
The Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau in Sawyer County, Wisconsin welcomes you to our Northwoods hometown. No matter the season, no matter the activity, you'll always be surrounded by our great outdoors. What more could you ask for in a vacation destination? Woods, waters, world-class events. Contact us for information on lodging, dining, attractions, events, trail conditions, and more. Order your free vacation guide and start planning your getaway today. Visit us at haywardlakes.com or call 1-800-724-2992.
Riding along in my automobile.
Bumping into things unexpectedly? Make your first choice for collision repair. Ernie's Auto Body, featuring the most advanced collision repair facility in Northwest Wisconsin. With a state-of-the-art spray, bake down, draft paint booth for that better-than-new finish, laser technology for precision frame alignment, loaner cars available, computerized estimates, written guarantees, and documented unmatched customer service, the clear choice is Ernie's Auto Body, south of Hayward on Highway 63 and Nursery Road, where quality is no accident.
Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering welcomes you to stop by for their great lunch menu. And while you're there, Lynn's also has a great selection of custom-cut meats and sausages, as well as many varieties of snack sticks, jerky, fresh cheese curds, and much more. Lynn's is open Mondays through Fridays from 9 to 5:30 and 9 to 4 on Saturdays. Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering in Hayward.
Today, anglers fish longer. Today, anglers fish harder. Today, anglers rely more than ever on their electronics. It all comes down to catching more fish, and today, anglers rely on Amped Outdoors lithium batteries, period. Visit ampedoutdoors.com today to power your outdoor experience.
We're down Hayward Bait and Bottle talking Jarrett McCarthy down here. And Jarrett, we were really setting up for fall there when it comes to fishing, but then we took a 180-degree turn and it warmed up a bunch.
Yeah, 180 degrees isn't taking it lightly either. It got warm outside, but it looks like, this coming week it's supposed to come back down. We're supposed to get another taste of fall, but, in the meantime, let's enjoy the nice weather and do a little bit of fishing.
Man, I was out there on the water and I saw 71 degrees. A few days before it was 59 and 60.
Yeah, but a little bit of rain that's in the forecast, some cooler weather. It's not going to take much to lower that temp on the water out there.
As far as the fishing reports, what are you hearing here? Has the walleye bite starting to pick up?
It is, yeah. We're seeing a couple of those walleyes. They're starting to move shallow for that fall bite. Otherwise, there's still guys getting them out there trolling. They're running the Lindy rigs or what have you, still pulling some hard baits. But that bite will move shallow here pretty quick.
Yeah, I know. I'm starting to see them eating sucker minnows a little bit. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, between guys that are going out there fishing for, the walleyes, are getting some smallies on the sucker minnows as well. But, yeah, once we get into that fall bite, those fish are going to start putting on the feed bag, and they're going to be looking for something a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I know. It should be pretty good. And let's talk a lot about panfish. That's your favorite, I know. That's also been picking up pretty good. Depending on the lake you're in and where you're going to find them.
It really does depend. There's still some fish that are sitting out doing the deep water thing, and then there are other fish that are coming up shallow. They're sitting on some shallower structure like cribs and weed lines, and, they're all just kind of chasing the food around.
I know on the Chippewa flowage, for a while the bluegills kind of moved back shallow a little bit, but I've been finding them now just the last few days. I was out there finding them out in that deeper water, 18, 20, 22 feet. They've been pretty active out there, but, we did have a big bug hatch.
Yeah, we absolutely did. Yeah, and those bluegills and crappies, they'll do something different all year round. They're all chasing the food. A couple weeks ago, when we had that first cool down, I was still seeing those bluegills out in that 18 to 22 feet of water, like you were saying, but everything was sitting, within about a foot of the surface, just feeding on bugs or what have you. So it's different lake to lake, and it just helps to go around and keep your eyes open.
I don't know what kind of bugs they were. I know I was on the Chippewa Flowage here just a few days ago, and then we started fishing, and we see all these little flies popping up on the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all those fish that are in there following the food. So keep your eyes open, look at your sonar, follow the bait around, and you will find fish.
How about some other fishing out there? Northern pike fishing, I know, has been picking up pretty good.
Yeah, northern pike fishing's been really good. Some of those fish are starting to move up shallow as well. And, with guys out there throwing suckers for smallies and wallies, you're bound to get a couple of northerns there and there mixed in. But yeah, guys are still throwing a little bit of everything, throwing the kitchen sink at pike, and they're having some success. We're seeing some really nice fish being caught too.
Yeah, one of my friends fishes on one of the Clearwater lakes here, and he's been trolling for muskies. He's been picking up quite a few really nice mid to upper 30-inch pike.
Yeah, absolutely. Those pike are doing the same thing. They're putting the feed bag on, and out that water's starting to cool off a little bit, and they're getting ready for winter.
Muskie fishing, that was started to pick up pretty good from what I've seen and what I've heard.
Yep, absolutely. Guys are still throwing baits off the front of the boat. There's muskie suckers in a lot of the bait shops, including ours right now. So guys are letting muskie suckers drift off the back, and they're, just kind of pulling fish in with, your bucktails and what have you. But yeah, seeing some really nice muskies getting caught up there now, and looks like a couple of them are starting to add some weight to themselves.
And the weather cools down a little bit, and that water cools down a bit. A little easier on the live bait, the suckers. They don't like that warm temperature too much. The muskies will eat them, but the suckers don't like being in that warm water.
Yeah, live bait in general, when you finally start to cool down, you kind of notice it whether you're fishing, muskie suckers or crappie minnows. A lot of times when you're fishing that warm water, you get a crappie minnow or a fathead on there, and they're going to last one or two casts, and they'll have some good action or what have you. And then they just kind of go belly up or what have you, just because of the change in temperature between your bait well water and your lake water. But now that we're starting to get a little bit closer in temps, your bait well water being somewhere in the 60s and the water starting to come down to the 60s, those minnows are going to last a long time out there, and they're going to stay nice and lively.
What are you hearing on the bass fishing out there? Largemouth, I know, have been pretty active.
Yeah, yep. Largemouth and smallmouth. This is the time of year where guys are starting to see a lot of the smallies in where they're doing all their muskie fishing, catching a lot of smallies on some of the muskie baits that they're throwing. Topwater's been good with those fish. A lot of people are going to start switching over to live bait. Largemouth fishing's still been really, really good. A lot of guys still just dragging plastics for them.
I've been getting pretty good. Just about every trip out, we're getting one or two nice smallmouth on musky topwater baits, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. We hear a lot of that up here. Those smallies are not afraid to be aggressive and come up and tackle a big bait.
Especially the big ones, and we've got quite a few of those bigger ones up here. And, as we kind of wind down here, are you hearing anything on the rivers or up on the big lake, Chequamegon Bay?
Not lately. I had one guy in here that was doing the brule last week, but that's pretty much it right now. Doesn't seem like that's kicked off quite yet.
Well, for some reason, the rivers seem to be running really low. There doesn't seem to, even though we've had some periods of rain, it's not been a lot of rain, and, some of that water come down there. For us, rapids and stuff are getting pretty shallow.
Yeah, we could use a little bit of rain. It looks like it's on its way.
Well, that sounds true. And just in time, we got the hunting season opening up, and I know you guys are pretty much equipped here. I've seen a lot less crossbows out here right now, but you got a lot.
Got a lot more people buying crossbows. So, yeah, we got some pictures in over the weekend for guys that got out into the stand a little early in September here. We had some nice weather, but see some deer coming back and seeing some deer moving around. So guys are definitely jumping out in the stands.
Yeah, and that'll be just getting better and better as it cools down. And I know, right now it's just a little bit too much leaves, but the leaves are starting to drop for grouse and some of the small game stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all upon us.
Yeah, you guys are all right in the fall fishing stuff. You mentioned you got suckers. You're going to have a good supply this fall?
Absolutely. Should be just like last fall. We're seeing a lot of fish right now, whether they're coming out of the ponds or out of the rivers or what have you. So, sucker supply looks good for the moment.
Should remind people, too, if you're going to fish the live bait for muskies, you use the quick strike rigs. And you've got a bunch of different types of quick strike rigs in here, and you'll show people how to rig them up if they need to know. And you don't want to wait on the fish. The whole purpose of the quick strike rig is as soon as they grab it, they head away from you, you set the hook. If you go away from me, you set the hook. You don't wait for them to eat it.
Yep, you're avoiding hooking them too deep so they'll release perfectly.
I know you're preparing to get out on the road, too, because you're going to be going to some buyer shows just trying to decide what we're going to have next year to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. So that already started. So, this last month and this month ahead of me, I'm headed out to all the different shows across Wisconsin. We do a show out in Reno every spring or what have you, but looking at all the brand new baits that are coming out to us and, kind of getting an idea of what shop is going to look like for next year and all the cool new gadgets we're going to bring in.
Well, Jared, I want to thank you for taking the time with us here. Interesting talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me again, John.
Yep. Well, folks, we need to take a break right now and hear from some of the fine sponsors that make this show possible every week. When we come back, we'll be talking fishing with fishing guide Chris Beeksma. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hunters and anglers, Hayward Bait and Bottle is your one-stop sport and bottle shop in the Hayward area. Stop in and check out the huge selection of fall muskie, bass, walleye, and panfish tackle. They also have a great selection of ammunition, scents, hunting supplies, and much more. Gear up for the fall at Hayward Bait and Bottle. And while you're there, check out the bottle shop for a full selection of beer, wine, and liquor, too. Hayward Bait and Bottle is your one-stop sport and bottle shop in the Hayward area. There's no time like the present to explore Hayward, Wisconsin, one of the Midwest's most popular vacation destinations. With crystal clear lakes for water sports and fishing, miles of trails for riding snowmobiles, ATVs, cross-country skiing, hiking, and mountain biking, this area is buzzing with activity year-round. Combined with charming local shops and a variety of Northwoods dining options, Hayward is certain to offer both adventure and relaxation for everyone. Plan your trip today and find everything you need on the Hayward Area Chamber of Commerce website. From events and attractions to local dining, shopping, and lodging, visit haywardareachamber.com and start your next adventure now. Big fish stories come to life at the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. The world's largest shrine to freshwater anglers boasts a 4.5-story tall walk-through muskie that's a half a city block long. It's like taking a peek into Granddad's old tackle box with thousands of mounted fish, antique outboard motors, and historical sport fishing artifacts. Stop in and take a chance on our 50-50 cash raffle. You could walk away with a pile of cash. See the big ones that didn't get away at the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame, Highways 27 and B in Hayward. Open daily, including Sundays, through October 31st at 9:30 a.m.
Looking to get more done and unlock more adventures this summer? It's time for a new side-by-side or ATV, and Hayward Power Sports has some great Can-Am summer deals on now. This is your chance to find your new ride and get up to $3,500 off or 0.99 financing for 36 months on select 2025 models. The Can-Am Defender is the perfect utility side-by-side that's extra tough on the worksite or for projects around your property. Can-Am Maverick is the high-performance machine that delivers an unrivaled adrenaline surge. Or get the best of work and play with the ultimate crossover, the Can-Am Commander. Maybe you prefer a traditional Can-Am ATV. If so, there are none that match the performance of a Can-Am Outlander ATV. You deserve a machine that's ready to explore, work, and play as hard as you do. And with up to $3,500 off or 0.99 financing for 36 months, now's the time to make it happen. Take home a Can-Am today from Hayward Power Sports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
Offer ends August 31st, 2025. Certain conditions apply. See dealer for details.
Welcome back to another segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors, and this part of the show was brought to you by the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. For more information on lodging and vacationing here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out their website at haywardlakes.com. Well, folks, a really good fishery that's not all that far away from our base here in Hayward is the Chequamegon Bay up on Lake Superior. I had a chance the other day on the phone to talk to fishing guide Chris Beeksma, who fishes up on the big lake all the time. Chris, good to have you on the show here.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
You're up there and spent a lot of years up on the Chequamegon Bay up there and around on Lake Superior, and that's a fishery that's close to the Hayward area here, just a short drive up there. Interesting body of water with pretty diverse fishery.
Yeah, it's a kind of a different ballgame on the big lake. You never know what you're going to catch when you're out fishing if you're actually targeting a species, but a lot of variety and 30,000 acres of water to cover.
30,000. I kind of guessed it was bigger than that, but it's a pretty big chunk of water. And first thing we should mention to people is that water can get kind of unruly sometimes too. You got to be careful with the weather patterns.
Yeah, you always have to. I use the NOAA weather app, and for the wind is the main thing. Things can change real quickly.
Yeah, any particular wind that is the worst wind to be looking at?
Really, northwest is the wind that you want to try to avoid. Once in a great while, you'll have a calm northwest wind. Usually northwest means you're not going fishing.
Yeah, that's about right. When you're talking about the fishery up there, I mean, it's pretty well known as a world-class smallmouth bass fishery, but there's other, and there's trout and salmon there too. What kind of fishery you got? Let's talk about walleyes. There's some big walleyes in there too, isn't there?
Yeah, since forward-facing sonar has come out, guys are really getting tuned into the walleye bite. Right now, I say it's about 50-50. You see guys trolling, and the other guys are out there just using their forward-facing sonar, looking for them and pitching to them one live bait or plastics.
Yeah, we're talking big fish too. There's what, 10-pounders in there?
I had a client catch a 33-incher that was, I would say, pushing 15 pounds, but a 10-pounder isn't really uncommon.
Yeah, but location on them is a little bit different up there because they're not everywhere. You got to really be dialed in on them.
Yeah, they're really nomadic. They follow the bait, and there's some really nice weed beds that you can concentrate on. But I think a lot of these fish are just kind of out in open water.
You think a lot of those fish are roaming all the way back to St. Louis River? Because I know that whole north shore or south shore between you there at the bay and the St. Louis River, there'll be walleyes along that thing.
Yeah, from everything I've read and that I've known, it sounds like those St. Louis River fish kind of go, obviously it's not perfection, but kind of make themselves go to about Red Cliff. So it seems like Red Cliff is the farthest east that they go. I'm sure some, filter into the bay, but it seems like they run between like Red Cliff, Frog Bay area, and then back to Duluth.
Yeah, and there's other fish too. I mean, it's known for having some pretty big pike out there. Not a high density, but some pretty big ones.
Yeah, and you got deep water on the Washburn side, so you can bet that some of those big pike just never see a bait. And there's I would say I would use the word a lot of pike over 40 inches, just tough to find them.
Well, other fish too. I know you've got a pretty diverse salmon trout fishery in the bay there, and that's Cordy. I don't know if they stay in the bay the whole time or they move in and out. What goes on there?
I think there's always some fish that are in the bay, but like I caught about a 4-pound brown yesterday fishing smallmouth. But it's August is coming up, and then those fish start coming and staging at the river mouth. So, and we always got to remember that the Washburn side has 60 feet of water. So I think there's always some trout and salmon out in that deep water.
Yeah, up in the north, and get up toward the islands up there, and there is some actually protected areas that you can't fish too, right?
Absolutely. Yep. And those are mostly lake trout areas that they're trying to protect, spawning areas.
Yeah, there's a couple of different species of lake trout in there, actually. People just think lake trout, but there's actually a couple different ones in there.
Fat ones and lean ones.
Some that are good to eat and some that are just too oily, right?
Some you would not want to eat fat. Yeah.
Well, Chris, we're talking about smallmouth bass too, and, that's kind of a thing that the Chequamegon Bay is really seems to be known for lately is the world-class smallmouth, and that all came about when Roger LePenner went to work and trying to get a size limits to protect those fisheries, didn't they?
Yeah, they were really taking a lot of big smallmouths out of the bay back in the day there, and it must have been the 80s. I can't even remember what year they started that 22-inch size limit, and it really turned things around, and it was able to for that fishery to establish itself again, and it turned into the fishery that it is now.
Yeah, well, the size limit up there, what is it? Minimum 22, and you're allowed one fish, or what is it?
One fish over 22 inches, and they're not plentiful.
Well, when you get to that end at 20, anything over 22 inches is getting to be a pretty rare bird when it comes to smallmouth. I mean, I don't know how many of them get that big.
Exactly. It's an old fish most of the time also. So I've caught a lot of 21 and a halves and 21 and 3/4, but you're talking a 20-year-old fish.
Yeah. Well, in the advantage you have up there is just the sheer numbers of those bigger fish. You look at some of the lakes, even around Hayward here, and 20-inch fish, 21s, even some 22s even, and I've actually seen bigger out of these lakes. But the numbers are not there compared to the Chequamegon Bay. Chequamegon Bay has a really high number of smallmouth in it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, it's not rare to catch 20 inches at all. I guided last Saturday, and we had, 7 over 20 inches, but none over 21. So your chance of catching a bunch of 4-pounders, 4.5-pounders even is really good.
Well, folks, we need to take yet another break and hear from even more of the fine sponsors that make this show possible every week. When we come back, we'll have the second part of that talk we had with fishing guide Chris Beeksma, so stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hey folks, come on over to Hayward Ace Hardware and check out the area's largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories. We carry top brands like Browning and Sig Sauer, and we have a great selection of the newest and hard-to-find models. We've got a large selection of ammo with more coming in daily. If you need a scope, we carry great brands like Leupold, Hawk, and EOTech, and we'll even mount it and bore-sight it for you too. We even sell suppressors and silencers. And don't forget to check out our Guns of the Week. Huge discounts on a variety of pistols, rifles, and shotguns that change every week. So stop on in to Hayward Ace Hardware, your firearms superstore. Hayward Ace Hardware, Highway 63 North in Hayward, or give us a call at 715-634-8700.
Hayward Animal Hospital is a full-service medical and surgical hospital featuring on-site laboratory, digital and dental x-ray, in-house pharmacy, and online store. Dr. Ostrander has 40 years of experience dealing with illnesses, injuries, surgery, and dentistry. Hayward Animal Hospital offers urgent care appointments and emergency surgery daily. Please call early in the day for these appointments. They open at 8 a.m. Hayward Animal Hospital is located 1 mile east of Hayward on Highway B. Call 715-634-8971.
Hey folks, the Log Cabin Store in Northwoods Beach on Highway K between the Big Lakes has groceries, ice, beer, liquor, and pop, and now has all new tackle and bait supplies. All current antiques and household items are now on sale and all must go to make room for the sport shop. That's at the Log Cabin Store in Northwoods Beach between the Big Lakes.
If you'd like to have your time fishing be more enjoyable and productive, hiring a fishing guide can be a good investment. Whether it's learning more about fish patterns throughout the year, learning how to use your depth finder to find the best spots and fish, learn how to use that GPS to get the most out of it, or learn better boat control. A day on the water with a guide can really help you to be a better angler, as well as make a day on the lake very enjoyable. To book a guide trip this year or get more information, you can find us on the internet at www.wiscnorthlandoutdoors.com, and then just click on Area Guides.
Welcome back to the last segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. And folks, we're going to jump right back into the second part of that talk we had with fishing guide Chris Beeksma. Well, in the areas up there, I mean, historically, the area up there north of Sandcut and over toward the Chequamegon and over that way, that basically was the area that seemed to have the most bass. But now I'm getting reports that the whole Ashland waterfront, lots of different places have got a pretty good population of smallmouth.
Yeah, I think what happened through the years is that, we've had such a drastic change in average water temperatures. I mean, when I used to guide with Roger, we never left the sloughs, Chequamegon and Sandcut. We'd fish it all summer long, and there's fish that go in and out of there. But now you can catch fish in, like, say, in the Ashland waterfront, Washburn waterfront, the weed beds over on the far west side. I mean, they're really spread out in those 30,000 acres.
Yeah, there's a huge amount of actually cover and structure in there, too. You've got channels been dredged in there. You've got a lot of timber, dock pilings, just a lot of different things to attract the fish.
Yeah, you do, and there's a lot of weed beds, especially in the Ashland side and toward Washburn. And people forget that bass like weed beds, and so do smallmouth compared to largemouth.
What kind of tips can you give people that maybe want to make a trip up there, besides you got to watch the weather and pick your days that you go up, but where start looking, what kind of baits, how do you gear up, what there?
Well, yesterday we went right out in front of Second Landing. There's a vast weed bed out there, and we just threw spinner baits and caught fish. So something that you're able to get through the weeds. Otherwise, I try to find weeds and fish the weed edges. Last week we caught a lot of fish on Ned rigs, and I like the quarter ounce because I like to, fish, 15 to 25 feet, and you want them to get down there quick. And of course, the drop shot has been really good. I saw I was with a guy 2 weeks ago when the water is still really warm. We were up in 5 feet of water, and he's whacking them on jerk baits. So, the same variety of baits that guys fish in the spring, and tubes are good. And, top water when it presents itself when it's calm. Those are all baits that work.
And I know you mentioned Ned rigs. I see that, Ned rig, people think about it for bass, but it catches everything, actually. I mean, but there's a way to work it, and there's a way not to work it, too.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the Ned rig is you can give it to somebody who's, doesn't fish a lot and they catch fish with it. I kind of basically work a Ned rig and a drop shot the same way. Just I like them to sit still, wiggle them, and then move them. Let them sit still, wiggle them, and then move them instead of working it like a walleye jig.
I know the people that have the most trouble working a Ned rig or a drop shot seem to be the musky guys. I mean, we can't sit still long enough. So I sometimes say we got to force ourselves to slow down that much. Well,
it's funny you said that because I've been telling this to all my clients in the last year is that I've finally realized smallmouth bass fishing is really boring. It's a boring way to fish, really, to catch these fish unless, you got a fast pattern going with top waters or spinner baits, and otherwise you just gotta be patient.
Well, and you're talking there, the one thing about being patient is they're notorious for, you got to leave long pauses on your bait, whether you're fishing a jerk bait or a topwater bait or plastics. It seems like they want it sitting still so they can look at it for a while before they decide to eat it.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I also think they follow baits a lot. So, you got to, work it all the way to the boat and be ready for a hit right at the boat. And you've seen it when you hook one and you bring them in, there's 4 or 5 of them following it. So, that they're all looking at it.
Well, that's kind of a trick there, too, is that if you can get one fish looking at it, yeah, maybe you could catch him, but you get 2, your odds go up. You get 3 or 4 looking at your bait, and somebody's going to grab it.
Yeah, I think, it's you hear about this all the time. They talk about getting the school fired up, and that's a big key if you can do that.
And the smallmouth up there, I mean, the bay, the regulations have produced a great fishery as far as trophy smallmouth. I mean, it's getting to be known as one of the places, the go-to places. That and over in Green Bay and Sturgeon Bay area, they're producing some big fish. And I don't know why it is that the Great Lakes is just such a tremendous fishery for smallmouth, but some of those areas on the Great Lakes are.
Yeah, and we know for a fact that the Lake Michigan has the gobies and Lake Erie and those have that high protein food for them. And that's why they're getting the 7 and 8 pounders and we're not. I think we have fish, close to that big, but ours are still eating crayfish and minnows.
Well, the minnows, they still got the emerald shiners up there. I'm sure they eat a lot of them.
Yep. The emerald shiners, spot tail shiners, there's a variety of different minnow type. Of course, smelt are in there. They're in the bay. A lot of the spring, summer, and fall, and herring. There's all kinds of food for them.
And just about everything will eat smelt. Well, Chris, a lot of great information there. Anybody's looking for information on your guiding, how do they get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me is at getbit@checknet.net. That's CHEQNET.net. Or 715-292-4410.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you greatly for taking the time with our audience here, and hopefully you'll have a good season out there.
Thanks a lot, John.
Well, folks, we're about out of time for this week's show. I'd like to remind everyone out there that if you miss a show, go to our website at wnoradio.com. From there, you can link to our podcast site, and the show is also on Spotify and Google Podcasts every week. And also, if you're looking for information on vacationing and lodging here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau website at haywardlakes.com. Thanks for listening, folks. We're out of time, and we'll be back again next week with another interesting show for you.
Listen with me, I'm gonna take you there to our Wisconsin outdoors, our Wisconsin outdoors.
This program has been produced and hosted entirely by Wisconsin Northland Outdoor Communications.